Hey guys, so first things first, if you could not already tell by the title, there are going to be massive spoilers for Avengers Endgame in this video, so please click away. I don't want this experience to be ruined for any of you. I want you guys to go and see this movie without having anything spoiled or the least amount of things spoiled for you. I will be talking about the plot and all the little things I noticed, the parts that I liked, and I don't want this experience to be ruined for any of you guys, so please click away because this movie is really something special. So I went to go see Avengers Endgame this past Thursday and successfully without any major spoilers. Needless to say, guys, I loved the movie. I know this sounds super cheesy and super just stupid, but honestly, if you're a fan of the MCU, this movie will love you back. It truly is the epic finale, the epic conclusion of this 22 movie tapestry that is the Infinity Saga. It's the end that fans deserve, and honestly, it 100% lived up to all the hype I had. Having said that, it's not a perfect movie. I do have some issues with the movie, certain plot points, certain characters, and the way certain things were done. But overall, they're not really big issues I had with the movie, and they by no means change the way I feel about this movie. So I'm gonna go over the plot and some of the more specific scenes more in depth. What I'm gonna do is talk about all the things that I just didn't love and all the things that I absolutely loved. And there is a lot in this movie, guys. 3 hours of a lot of good stuff. And I'll give it my rating and give you guys how I felt watching the movie and how I felt after watching the movie, and I'll give it my rating, and that's pretty much what I'm gonna do, guys. Now again, if the title wasn't clear enough as day, spoiler warning, click away if you have not seen Avengers Endgame. So the movie starts off pretty fast with Hawkeye on his ranch with his family. He's having a little bit of target practice with his daughter. It's a pretty sweet couple of scenes. He takes his eyes off of his daughter for seconds and he looks back and his daughter is dusted. He calls out to the rest of his family and they are nowhere to be found either, and you see Clint just confused, in disarray, and this is a very emotional start to the movie. You can really feel how vulnerable Clint is in this moment and how devastating this is for him. You can really feel that, so that kind of sets the tone for the beginning of this movie. Cut to Tony and Nebula stuck in space on the Benatar. Tony is looking insanely emaciated because of starving from the lack of food on the Benatar, but just as he is on the brink of death, Captain Marvel is actually the one who saves him and Nebula. She takes them back to Earth. Tony is still very unwell physically and mentally because of his condition, his fight with Thanos that was just fairly recent, him watching Peter Parker die in front of him, turn into ashes, and he still holds a lot of resentment towards Cap from all the stuff that happened in Civil War, of course, and also for Cap not being there, not losing with him like he said he would. And Tony is confronting him and he actually passes out and he's taken to a critical care unit at the Avengers HQ. Captain Marvel is hell-bent on killing Thanos, and the team slows her down to try to devise a plan to confront Thanos first. After the same energy signature as the snap is detected, Nebula then lets them know where they can find Thanos, which is basically on that planet that he was at, which is called the Garden or Titan 2. So this whole confrontation takes place about 3 weeks after the actual snap. So we see Thanos on this planet and we see his arm and we see the gauntlet, guys, and it's pretty much completely withered away. His arm is like super skinny, the gauntlet is all messed up. He has like Harvey Dent face from the Dark Knight pretty much, and he is in an extremely weakened state after double usage of the Infinity Stones all at once. So they basically surprise attack, jump Thanos, they hold him down similar to how they did on Titan in Infinity War. Thanos reveals that he used the stones to destroy the stones, so the Avengers pretty much cannot undo anything that he did, and that's one of the most evil things ever. And very satisfyingly, Thor goes for the head and he chops Thanos' big head off, and I'm not gonna lie, it was very awesome he went for the head, but there's really nothing that they could do about what Thanos had already done. And a lot of people were hating on this scene specifically because of Captain Marvel, but guys, you have to remember, she wasn't the only one attacking Thanos, and he's in an extremely weakened state. That's why Thanos did not put up any fight. That's why he was so easy to commandeer. He had a twig arm, okay? That's what he was working with. That's why there was no fight put up from the Mad Titan. After the ambush, there's a 5-year time jump that ensues. We find Hawkeye has become the assassin Ronin, and he's killing a whole bunch of gang members and cartel members in record numbers, and I really like this because it shows just how torn inside Clint is about this. You can kind of almost feel what he's feeling and see what he's thinking. More than likely, these criminals, these horrible beautiful people get to live, but innocent people like his family got snapped away, and he feels even more angry about that, and so he's killing all these people that don't even deserve to live, that should have been snapped, and he's just insanely torn. I really love what Jeremy Renner did with Hawkeye in this movie. He really is the heart. Natasha is keeping contact with Captain Marvel, Rocket, and Okoye, just some of their more distant allies. She also is in huge state of disarray. She, in a way, lost her family too, and she just feels helpless, and she wants to be able to do something. Bruce Banner takes those 5 years to kind of actually find himself, and he spends time in a gamma lab, and he comes to terms that Hulk is a part of him, and that forges the balance that is Professor Hulk, which honestly I had problems with this character in the movie, but ultimately I didn't really care, and I enjoy the character for what it was. Cap helps snap survivors by going to these support groups, and he helps them grieve and try to move on from the devastation, but nobody really can, not even Cap. Thor now resides in, I believe, Norway, in New Asgard from the comics, except in Norway and not floating over Oklahoma. And the most unpredictable thing that I could ever think of, didn't think I would ever see Chris Hemsworth fat ever in his life. But yeah, Thor is fat in this movie. He spends all the 5 years grieving, just sad and guilt, drinking his sorrows away, playing Fortnite with Korg and Meek and eating pizza. He's a total mess. He feels extreme guilt for kind of inadvertently causing everything by, you know, being kind of cocky, wanting to talk to Thanos, shoving Stormbreaker in the chest when he should have gone to the head in the first place. So he's just going through so much. He's lost so much. His people, his mother, his father, his brother at one point, his best friend, and Tony Stark has now settled down. He has a family now, and he has reasons to not don the armor again. He has things that he doesn't want to lose. Now this is when Ant-Man enters the picture. So basically the quantum tunnel in the ex-con van has a fail-safe ejection, which I guess kicks in after 5 years, and that's how Scott Lang escapes the quantum realm. Scott's obviously confused. He doesn't know what's going on. He sees that the world is in shambles and disarray, and he finds out that he is presumed dead, so he goes to see if Cassie Lang, his daughter, is still alive. Luckily she is. She's just 5 years older, and that's a very emotional and very sweet moment between him and Cassie. Naturally, he seeks out the Avengers. This is where the plan begins. He tells the Avengers how time works differently in the quantum realm, how 5 minutes in there could be 5 years in the real world. And that's when the plan to time travel to past events to gather Infinity Stones is devised. It has some issues, namely making time go through Scott Lang, making him a baby and an old man in mere moments. But once it's suggested to the incredible mind that is Tony Stark, they have a lot more success with that. And I just love how Tony Stark cracks time travel in his first try. He's not even trying really hard. He's like, oh, let me try this, and oh, it worked. Wow, I didn't even expect that. And then he just goes to the Avengers HQ. He sees Captain America, tells him that I basically just cracked time travel, and he gives him back his shield, which is another very special moment. So the team of Cap, Widow, Hulk, Thor, Rocket, Ant-Man, Hawkeye, Nebula, and Tony assemble. They construct a time machine and time travel suits, those white advanced suits that everybody was calling the quantum suits, including me. They go to different points in time, different places, and events to gather the Infinity Stones in different teams. Hawkeye and Natasha travel to 2014 to Vormir, of course, to get the Soul Stone. And this is a very emotional moment, and probably one of Black Widow's best moments in all of the films in the MCU that she's ever been a part of yet. It's very emotional. They're fighting over who needs to make the sacrifice to get the Soul Stone. It's a good little battle that they have, but Natasha ultimately ends up sacrificing herself. Clint gets the Soul Stone, and needless to say, he's very broken up about that as well. That's just adding on top of everything else. Black Widow is honestly a highlight of this movie. I loved her in this movie, and I can't wait for the solo movies, especially after seeing this. Thor and Rocket go to the year 2013 to Asgard to retrieve the Aether, or the Reality Stone, from Jane Foster. While Rocket is trying to retrieve it, Thor actually gets caught by his mother, and he tells her that he's from the future, and they have a little heart-to-heart, which I think is really awesome. Thor by far has lost so many people that were dear to him in his life in the MCU. I thought that this little scene with him and his mother, just kind of getting closure from that part of his life, I thought it was well needed. I thought it was a very emotional and human moment, as well as funny moment. Fat Thor and Chris Hemsworth, I mean, it's just very hilarious. So that was a very good moment, and they do get the Reality Stone. And this is the point where Mjolnir comes back into the picture, which was really awesome. Thor is still worthy. Cap, Hulk, Iron Man, and Ant-Man go to the year 2012 to the Battle of New York to retrieve the Tesseract, the Scepter with the Mind Stone in it, and the Time Stone from the Ancient One. And they get all but the Tesseract. Nebula and War Machine head to Morag in 2014 to get the Power Stone. War Machine kind of knocks out Star-Lord and they are able to get it. But at this moment, this is where the whole kind of crux of the movie comes in. So while Nebula is in this timeline, her recorded memory kind of, I guess, syncs up with the Nebula in her time. And that Nebula, which is in the room with Thanos, gets this message. Right when they're about to zap back to Avengers HQ, Nebula stops and the other Nebula is actually accessing her recorded memory files, and Thanos is looking through them. And this is how Thanos from this alternate timeline and Thanos in general gets interjected into this story again. So it's an alternate timeline Thanos, a younger Thanos. I thought something like that might have happened, just not in that way, not like an alternate timeline. It wasn't a huge shock, but it was still pretty cool. He takes notice of it, he learns about them. So rather than going and doing it himself, he lets the Avengers gather all the stones and he sends his Nebula from his universe to be the Trojan horse for him, so that Nebula can open a portal for him and his army to go and attack Avengers compound and to get the Infinity Stones for him. Tony and Steve weren't able to get the Tesseract, so Tony and Steve both travel to the 1970s where they can both get Pym particles and the Tesseract to a SHIELD facility, and that's where we get our Stan Lee cameo, which again, love Stan Lee. I'm glad that this is his final cameo. It just seems right, honestly, the ending of an era, and we get to see Tony reunite with his father and get much needed closure, which was just beautiful. And then Steve actually sees Peggy and it just takes him back, and this hits hard. I mean, Peggy was the one thing that he was never allowed to have, a normal life. Up until this point, he's never had that. So all types of feelings are going on in Cap right now. Anyway, they go back to Avengers HQ, they grieve over Natasha's death, and then they decide they need to use the stones to snap everybody back. And the only one willing and the most able-bodied person to do it is the Hulk, and he volunteers to do it. The energy signature that comes off of the gauntlet is mostly gamma, so this is primarily the reason why he attempts to do this. And he snaps everybody back, getting that Thanos arm, that cursed arm, again, that Harvey Dent action, so to speak. And at that moment, you see life start teeming back. There's birds. Clint gets a call from his wife. It worked, and I couldn't believe that it worked. I was like, that's it, they're back. I was really excited. Just as this was happening, the other timeline Nebula goes to the time travel machine and she opens a port for Thanos, and he just rains fire on the Avengers compound. He sends out Outriders, he sends out Chitauri. So the Thanos takes off his helmet, he sends out Nebula to go and get the Infinity Stones for him, and he just waits. And the main three, the MCU Trinity, Thor, Iron Man, and Cap, go and confront him. Thor actually dual wield Stormbreaker and Mjolnir, which was just insanely badass. And this is also when the alternate timeline Thanos reveals his master plan, which is basically to get rid of all the life in the universe, all the life that at least remembers what happened, and to start over and to have nobody that remembers all that they lost, but all that they have been given. And that's pretty much it. He wants to start over. He wants to be the god of a brand new universe, which is insane. And so they confront him. There's a sick fight between the three of them happening while Nebula is trying to get the gauntlet. Hawkeye, Hulk, Rocket, and War Machine are stuck under the Avengers compound, and Hulk's kind of holding it up together, which is, I believe, a nod to when Hulk held up the mountains in the comic books. Cap, Iron Man, and Thor are all simultaneously fighting Thanos, and he's doing very, very well. Obviously, he's kind of picking them apart, and at the moment where he's kind of kicking Thor's butt, when Thor is calling Stormbreaker, Thanos catches it and starts digging it in his chest like Thor did to him. But before that could happen fully, we see that Captain America is indeed worthy, and he wields Mjolnir. He can control it. He can even control Stormbreaker too, which was kind of glanced over a little bit. Starts calling on lightning and thunder. He starts pretty much whooping Thanos, and it's just amazing. At one point, he calls down lightning, and Thanos is just getting like blasted, and I love that part. But then Thanos starts, going in on Cap. He actually breaks the shield, which I thought was just awesome as well. But Cap, that doesn't faze him. He gets right back up and he straps in that shield, and he's ready to fight. And that's when all of Thanos' army comes in, the Chitauri, the Outriders, the Black Order, his insane army to take over the planet. And at that point, that is when all the heroes, you just see a bunch of sling rings appear, and it focuses on one sling ring, and out comes Okoye, Shuri, and Black Panther, and it's super triumphant. I don't care about not seeing them actually get redusted. This was super badass. You see sling ring portals in the sky. We see the Guardians come back. We see Spider-Man come back as Guardians, Ravagers, the Wasp. Everybody everybody who was dusted come back, and it was absolutely beautiful. We see Giant Man emerge with Hulk, War Machine, and Rocket. I don't know where Hawkeye is at this point, but everybody comes in. Pepper Potts comes with her rescue armor, which is super badass. Valkyrie comes with a Pegasus. Pegasus, it's just the most badass thing ever. And they have a battle for the ages. And I'm telling you guys, this battle, this ending battle of Avengers Endgame, that's a splash page. That's how you do it. You know what exactly what the ending of Avengers Endgame, that's what the battle in Justice League of the Gods and everything, that battle wishes it could be. Not trying to shit all over DC, but that's what it looked like, but way better. And I actually cared about certain characters, or most of the characters. We see Scarlet Witch confront Thanos, and she has him in the air with those hex powers, and he commands the Black Order to rain fire from Sanctuary 2. Wong and all the other magicians start casting shields to protect everybody, and this is when Captain Marvel actually comes back into the frame of things. She blasts through the ships like she's known to do, and she confronts Thanos. And I like this part because this is actually where Captain Marvel is kind of exposed. She meets somebody that can actually contest her, and that's a good thing for characters to have happen to them. And so basically, kind of trying to speed up the ending, Thanos tries to snap, Captain Marvel doesn't let him. He tries to snap again. Tony confronts him, knowing that he has to make the ultimate sacrifice, knowing that it's gonna take whatever it takes. So he goes, he swipes all the stones. Thanos tries to snap, doesn't work, he's befuddled, and then you just see Tony Stark and the Infinity Stones just shifting up into place and the power surging through him, and he ends it in the way he kind of began. He's like, I am Iron Man, which was just so good, and he snaps. And one of the most satisfying endings ever. All of the Leviathans, all the Chitauri, all the Outriders, all of Thanos' forces start turning into dust, and you see it very slowly. You see Thanos sit down, and I almost thought that they were gonna keep him around. I thought they were going to like judge him or try to keep him somewhere or trap him somewhere, but you just see that dust start appearing on his shoulder, and he just fades away, turns into ashes. And it was pretty damn awesome, and it was an epic battle, and it ends obviously with Tony Stark's death. He is the one that dies. Most of the heroes go to his funeral, and it's a pretty sentimental, pretty emotional moment. Cap now needs to return the stones and Mjolnir exactly to where they were taken from at the point and time they were taken from. So he goes, and they're expecting him back very soon, and they see an old man in the distance, and it is Captain America. It's old man Cap, just like from the comics, and this is where he actually passes down the mantle to Sam Wilson. And I guess Sam Wilson is going to be the new Captain America, which I like Anthony Mackie, and I think it'd be really cool. I loved Falcon in this movie. He like stomps some big outrider out with his wings, and that was super badass. And we learned that Cap decided to have a little thing called life, and he went back and he had a life with Peggy, and I love that, and I'm so glad, I'm so happy for Cap that that happened. That was just so extremely satisfying. Now, before we get into the rating and how I felt about the movie, we're gonna get into the things that I didn't love about the movie, guys. So first off, there was no Hulk versus Thanos redemption. Honestly, I had a little bit of a problem with Hulk's character in the movie. I wanted, you know, a savage, powerful Hulk, but we just really didn't get that. But Hulk did remain alive at the end of the movie, so who knows? Maybe they can heal his arm. Maybe they can do something with Hulk in the future where he could be savage again. That, and I was really hoping to see a Hulk and Spider-Man interaction. I don't think I saw one. I only saw the movie once, so I'd have to replay that end battle. That was the interaction that I was really looking forward to. There was no Vision in the movie, and Vision was marketed, so that really kind of pissed me off. But we're obviously going to get him back because we're going to have the WandaVision Disney Plus series. Another thing I didn't like was, you know, one of the biggest plot holes with the movie, and with any movie that has to do with time travel, it gets this tricky, and that's why time travel is just such a hard line to toe in any capacity. But I think the Russo brothers did it well. But Cap went to go and return the stones in the alternate timeline in the past. How is he in this timeline without going through the actual time machine? Wouldn't he be in that timeline? How would he get back to this timeline is what I'm thinking. I guess that Captain America gets stuck in ice too, and he just spends his time with Peggy. I mean, I loved it, but I mean, that's like a huge plot hole in the movie, basically. Another thing, this is just another really big nitpick. What did Mantis even do in the final battle? I think they intentionally didn't show her fighting anyone, or at least I couldn't see her fighting anyone. I tried looking for her specifically, and I think that whenever she was going to come into some kind of conflict, they kind of panned her off the screen. If anything, she was probably just sleeping fools, you know, doing the Vulcan touch on people, sleeping them, or like diarrhea, she would go diarrhea or shit yourself or something. And some of the characters really weren't in the movie, like Catherine Langford. She was said to be in the movie. A lot of people were speculating she was going to be Kate Bishop or that she was going to be Morgan Stark in the future, but she wasn't even in the movie. And Ty Simpkins, the kid from Iron Man 3, he was in the movie at Iron Man's funeral. I don't know if they're setting him up for a future movie to be Iron Lad or something. I don't really see why he was in the movie, to be honest. Now for all the things that I absolutely loved about this movie, and there are a lot, guys. First off, Thor dual wielding Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, just super badass. And when he does summon both of them and he gets his armor back and his beard is all like braided and stuff in his hair, I just thought that was funny too. Cap wielding Mjolnir and wielding it very awesomely, just super satisfying, very awesome. And also Cap saying Avengers Assemble, again, amazing, what I've always wanted. Thanos breaking the shield, a moment from the comic books, very satisfying as well. At the end of the movie, you get to see Thor included with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think that works really well because Thor's dynamic with the Guardians in Infinity War was really good, and I'm curious to see his dynamic with the Guardians going forward, especially what's going to happen in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I think that's going to be really awesome because Thor in his comic books is the best, I feel, when he's in space doing cosmic things. That's like the coolest version of Thor. When you don't see Thor as a god, you see him as an alien space Viking. So that's just the coolest way that I see Thor. And we get the Asgardians of the galaxy, just like the comic book. Iron Man wielding the gauntlet, that was beautiful. He was the one who started the MCU. He should have been the one to end it, or at least end the Infinity Saga. I thought it was perfect. They respected the main characters in this movie, which I really love, and they did Iron Man justice, and they treated him so well in this movie. He's probably honestly my favorite character, Iron Man, in this movie. And when he says I am Iron Man after Thanos says I am inevitable, just perfect, just so Tony Stark. Giant Man, when he like reveals himself after Wong was like, oh, you wanted more, and that was really awesome. But when Giant Man is running like into the battle and he punches the Leviathan, so good. I love that so much. It was so awesome, so badass. And also when Cole Obsidian is picking on Tony Stark and then Spider-Man stops him and then Giant Man stomps him, that was awesome as well too. I really love that. When they go back to the 1970s and you see just for a moment the OG silly looking Ant-Man helmet, that was super awesome. We also get a kind of A-Force moment. It's like an all-female group. It was kind of a little like weird because just all of these women just in one place, like they just happen to be free enough in this huge battle to just all be in one place. But I thought it was actually pretty cool. Hulk lifting Avengers HQ, which I believe was a reference to him holding up the mountain in the comics. I loved Thor getting that closure with Frigga. Also, I love the reunion with Tony Stark and his father Howard Stark. I thought that was absolutely beautiful. He needed that closure with his father. That's what he's always needed. All these movies, he's had these daddy issues, and now he finally gets this closure and he gets his hug, and he gives Peter the hug that he needs. So it's just beautiful how that happens. Black Widow's sacrifice, again, another heartfelt moment in the MCU, one of Black Widow's best moments. I thought it was tremendous. I believe Howard the Duck was even in the movie. I saw a picture of him today. I don't know if I'll post any pictures from the movie, but I saw him in there. Hulk snaps. I thought that was really cool. Captain Marvel. A lot of people are still gonna hate on Captain Marvel. I thought the movie was all right. I understand people's criticisms 100%, and I can understand why people hate on her, honestly, but I think they used her perfectly in this movie. I think they used her exactly the way they needed to use her. And I think people were worried, and especially I was worried too, that we're gonna have another situation with Iron Man in Homecoming, and people were worried that Iron Man was gonna have too much screen time in Homecoming, but he didn't. And that's exactly what happened with Captain Marvel. She came, she left, and she came back when they needed her at the end. But this really respected the OG 6 Avengers, and I love that. And she came in, she was badass, she did what she needed to do, and she got humbled. The Power Stone is her weakness. When great power meets ultimate power, so if anybody can get their hands on a Power Stone, they basically got her. I enjoyed that, and I think that was much needed. You need a character to struggle in order for you to care about that character, and I think that was important. And that was the first time we saw Carol Danvers actually really struggle, so that's why I really liked her in this movie. And I didn't find her really even that cringeworthy, except for at the beginning, but at the end, I very much enjoyed her. Fat Thor, super surprising. Did not expect that at all. Hail Hydra Cap, straight from the comics. I love that. I loved how they kind of redid their own version of the elevator scene. It was very awesome. I did not expect that at all. Super cool. Cap versus Cap, kind of playing off the whole Spider-Man pointing thing. That's America's ass. That was just funny as well. And I feel like in this movie and in certain movies, movies, not really with Iron Man, because Robert Downey Jr. is basically Iron Man. They have been bled together, like the character, the actual actor have just been intertwined since the first movie. But you see, like in Thor Ragnarok, you see Chris Hemsworth bleeding into Thor, his personality, his stamp on the character. And I felt like Chris Evans really bled into Cap in this movie, and I really liked that. Tony and Peter's reunion, and Tony gives Peter that hug that he needed. Love that. And Peter activating instant kill, and those spider legs just start shanking everybody. And he rides a Pegasus with Valkyrie, which was awesome. Falcon, when he digs his wings into one of the Outriders, I think, one of those big ones, that was super badass. Stanley's cameo, of course. Tony Stark's funeral, super sentimental. New Asgard, like from the comics. And the best characters in the MCU, Korg and Meek returning. And finally, Cap and Peggy reuniting. I love Peggy. She's my favorite female hero. She's a ride or die, and I'm glad that Steve got what he deserved, which was a normal life. And so I can't wait to see exactly what that means for the future of the MCU. So yeah, guys, I tried to summarize the movie or go through the plot as best I can, but I probably missed a couple things. But basically, when I was watching this movie, I felt very emotional. I was mind blown, especially at the end of the movie. And the thing about this movie, guys, and the thing about the MCU, it's a combination of comics and movies. So it's its own unique, specific thing that I really love. The thing about the MCU, since even its inception, is that there was always something next. And even now, there's something next. We're gonna get Spider-Man Far From Home in just 2 months. But the thing that makes this special is that it feels like an ending. There's closure. This was probably the most satisfied I've been walking out of a Marvel movie ever. I absolutely love this. Even though there was no post-credit scenes, this just worked. I didn't care. I stayed to the ending. Yes, in hopes that there was a post-credit scene, but I didn't care. It was the most satisfying experience going to watch an MCU movie that I've ever had, and it was a really special thing. I mean, I had been watching these movies since I was probably like 11. I'm 21 right now, so these movies are pretty special to me. This movie, it respects the OG Avengers. It gives newer characters their places to shine. It sets up things without outright taking away focus from the main characters. It hits you to your heart. The acting is great. The emotions are great. You feel so much watching this movie because you've invested so much in these characters, and it's just so emotional, and it's just an event of a lifetime. Not to be too pretentious, but it really is. So that is why I'm going to be giving Avengers Endgame a 9.7 out of 10. The highest rating I've ever given anything. For what this movie was able to accomplish, from the amount of stories and characters and making time travel kind of work, from juggling all that, the Russos having to do that, that's an accomplishment in and of itself. You have to take into account juggling all of these different characters and making them work, respecting everybody, giving the fans what they want, and ultimately satisfying MCU fans. And that's what I thought of the movie. I'm curious, let me know what you thought of the movie. Obviously, if you're here, you should have already watched the movie. If you didn't, I'm sorry. I don't know why you watched this video. Please go and watch the movie. Please, what is wrong with you? Let me know what you thought of the movie, your own opinions, what you rate the movie. Let me know if you got anything spoiled for you beforehand. Let me know your whole experience with Endgame. I would love to hear it, guys. If you saw anything that I didn't see, definitely let me know. I'm actually going to put it up there, some of the videos that I had before of predictions that I got right, and also videos of me predicting things that are absolutely wrong. So wrong. So look forward to that throughout the video if you stayed till this long. This was an extremely awesome movie, and I really enjoyed myself, obviously, and I can't wait for more, but I'm super satisfied right now. So guys, if you liked the video, leave me a thumbs up, comment down below, and if you want, subscribe. I always appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.